What should I be thinking about before I go meet with my business formation attorney? Today we're going to look at 6 different things that you should be thinking about. My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm a business law and estate planning attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today we're going to give you a quick checklist of things you should think about before that first meeting with your attorney when you're going through the process of forming your business. So there can be a lot of different things you want to think about, and if you're starting your business, and we've all been there's a lot of things going through your mind and how you can deal with this and that, but it's important that for that meeting with your business formation attorney, we have some issues laid out, because that'll make things go a lot smoother and really help you focus at that meeting. First thing we want to think about is it your first time setting up a business? So if you've set up businesses in the past, then this process may be easy for you. You're used to it and you're ready to get started. You know just what to tell that attorney, and you probably know the answers to these 6 things. But if you've never started a business before, that's nothing to be embarrassed about, and you need to tell your attorney that. Say, this is my first time doing this. I'm not sure what some of these terms mean. I'm not sure what I need to do next. I need your help to make sure that I'm getting the right things done and I'm getting the right information I need. The second thing we need to look at is, what type of entity are you setting up? Now again, if you've already done this in the past, you've already set up businesses, then you may come into the process knowing, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. But if it's your first time creating a business, don't get hung up on a blog or a podcast that you've listened to or read about what kind of business you need to have. I mean, in my practice, for example, we preach a lot. If you're here in Minnesota and you want to put your rental property into a corporation, the LLC is often the best vehicle for you. But there's other things like trusts and regular corporations that may also be available to you and your business, and you want to make sure you're considering all those. So some of the types of entities we can look at is just a basic corporation. It's a C Corp and with an S Corp election, which is a tax election, not a type of company. An LLC, like I just said, is a good way to own rental property. You can do a general partnership if you're going to have partners in your business. And there's going to be various types of partnerships. So there's a limited liability partnership. There can be a family limited partnership if you're working with family. There can be just a limited partnership. And then, as I briefly discussed, there can be a business trust. So there can be a lot of different entities that you look at setting up, and we want to make sure that you're considering all of these entities and going with the right entity for you and your situation. Number 3, does anybody have a license? So if you're going into a business where you're providing services or products that require somebody to have a license, you need to know that going in and making sure that you're meeting those licensing requirements. If you're a professional like a doctor or an engineer that's licensed by your state, we need to make sure that the correct people are licensed. And in some situations, your corporation, your business can only be owned by certain people with licenses in certain percentages. So you want to make sure you understand what those are. If you're in the retail business, and let's say you're running a restaurant, if you're going to be getting a liquor license, it's incredibly important that you know which of the owners qualifies to get a liquor license, because if only one of the owners can get a liquor license and down the road that owner leaves, what's going to happen? The restaurant can't have that liquor license anymore, and you would know that you either have to get somebody else to be the person with the liquor license or find some way to get it transferred to somebody so that restaurant can keep operating. Number 4, think about proposed business names. So you may have the greatest idea in the world, you're all set to go, but then you go, wait a second, what am I going to call my business? And when you're doing this, you can have it something attached to your name, you can go something attached to the product, but whatever it's going to be, you need to make sure that those business names are going to be available. So in addition to checking with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, see if anybody's trademarked a name similar to what you're thinking, go online and look at websites you'd like to use. Make sure that that URL is available for you, because you don't want to set up this whole business with a great name and then find out that URL is not available, and now you're stuck trying to figure out, how do I do workarounds? And that can be really awkward when you're trying to market with a strange URL that doesn't really connect with your product. Number 5, what state are you going to be forming your business in? So for many people, this is a pretty simple answer. You're going to form in the state where you're located. You're creating a local business, and that's where you want to be. But for others, we have issues like privacy or other corporate protections we're looking for, and so you may consider other states like Delaware, Wyoming, New Mexico, Nevada. Each of these has their own pros and cons about creating a business there. But rather than just assuming you're going to pick one of those states, so for example, a lot of my clients would come to me with the preconceived notion that they have to create their business in Delaware. So Delaware is a very business-friendly state. It's great for corporations with owners, but you need to understand why you're going to file in Delaware as opposed to other states. Because if you're looking for anonymity, Delaware may not be the place that you want to look. You may want to look at other states. So make sure you've figured out this issue, or at least have thought about the issue before you meet with your business formation attorney, so that you can go through it with them and make sure you're choosing the correct state. And then the final issue that you need to think about before you meet with that business formation attorney is, how is the business going to be owned? Is it going to be individual owners? Is it going to be other companies owning an interest in the business? Or are we going to use a trust to be the owner of the business? Now, each of these different ownership structures has their own pros and cons. There's advantages that you can get with one that you can't get with the other, but you need to understand what those are. So if you're just starting your own business and you have no partners, then you really don't need to worry about this as much. You're probably going to own it individually or possibly put it in a trust. If you already have your own LLC, maybe you're creating a sub LLC. But however you want to do it, make sure you go through these issues with your business formation attorney. I've consulted with a lot of clients who have a problem with their other owner. So for example, a few weeks ago, I had a client whose co-owner racked up a bunch of debt on the company and then just disappeared. Well, that's now the debt of the company, and the owner who's remaining has to figure out a way to deal with these things. So you need to know who the owners are, and if you have concerns like that about your fellow owners, you need to make sure you've got protections for you built into the business. So with these 6 different things to think about, you can of course try to just do these all yourself and do some research online. But hopefully you can see as we go through a few of these that that's not something you want to try to do yourself. If you file in the wrong state or you create the wrong corporate structure, you're creating a lot of work to undo that and then create the correct way. So the second way to do it, which is smarter, is work with an attorney. Work with your financial advisors, work with your accountants, work with the professionals to make sure we're getting the right setup for you and your business. If you're ready to get started, you can set up a legal strategy session at my website, andrewmayers.com. There's a red button where you'll be taken to my calendar, and we can have a 15 or 20 minute phone call to discuss where you are in the process and go through these 6 things that you need to think about before you form your business to make sure we get you on the right path.